You mentioned the Ole Miss situation. Obviously, Austin Simmons, he's playing like you and I kind of talked about a week ago, which is maybe we thought he'd be further along, but honestly, based off of fall practice, you could kind of expect this guy to make some mistakes. He's a first-time starter in the SEC. He's a young guy. Obviously, we love what his ceiling is. But against Kentucky, I mean, his interceptions were atrocious. And it's because right now he's not going through his progressions. It's first read. You barely see the head move. And he's making some pretty insane, mistakes. But you got to understand, hey, first-time starter is probably going to happen. He also comes back from that and actually has an insanely good ball to Harrison Wallace that eventually sets up the first touchdown for Ole Miss and kind of got himself settled a little bit more. But the injury concern combined with maybe some of those mistakes is the question for Austin Simmons. How confident are you that he's playing Saturday against Arkansas? And if it's Trinidad Shameless, how excited should we be? I mean, this guy, look, he won a Division II Natty at Ferris State. The numbers were off the charts. We've seen what he can do on the ground, but how much faith can we have if Trinidad Shameless is to be put into the game, that he can move the ball down the field with his arm as well?
Well, Austin Simmons is the guy, and there's no chance he's going to be replaced anytime soon. But what you saw at Kentucky was not what you've seen from typical Lane Kiffin teams the last couple of years. And what I mean by that is after the two interceptions that were really bad, yes, Austin settled in. I think completed 6 of his next 7 passes after his second interception, but they became so much more run dependent and heavy because they do have a star running back in Keywan Lacey.
Keywan Lacey, baby.
An offensive line that, yes, was bad in week 1, struggled again at times in week 2, but figured some things out as well. Delano Townsend, the UAB transfer offensive lineman, stepped in for P.J. Wilkins at guard, played 59 snaps, returning from injury. And, buddy, there was a difference. You could tell a real difference. And they kind of took the impetus off of Austin and put it on everybody else, the rest of their playmakers, because they can do that. They've got Harrison Wallace, who is number 1 in the SEC in receiving right now. Keywan is number 1 in the SEC in rushing right now. They don't have to they don't have to put too much on Austin. They can rely on all this supporting cast that is inarguably better than even what Jackson Dart had last year when he was setting records as a third-year starting Ole Miss quarterback. So if they're going to be run heavy like that, they can deal without the interceptions. Trinidad Chambliss is a better runner, especially in designs, but I thought Austin did some tremendous things, some really encouraging things as a runner, both in design and in scrambles. And there was no thought for Lane Kiffin to replacing Austin Simmons. That's not what we're talking about. But if this is what their identity becomes, where there's such a good run-heavy variation of the spread, air raid, whatever you want to call the up-tempo offense of Lane Kiffin, the run element is always going to be – it's going to be a 50-50 split. And that sounds crazy to people, but it's true. That's how they've always designed it. Lane Kiffin believes in running the ball, and he has that running capability, not just with Keywan either. Depth of Logan Diggs. Damian Taylor took the shotgun snap in short yardage. The transfer from Troy was a 1,000-yard rusher last year and went in for a 1-yard touchdown. If this is who they are, then protecting the football is of the most vital importance.
Yeah.
There's no reason to take those chances anymore. Last year, They didn't have the ability to lean on a running back. And I know everyone wants to talk about Ulysses Bentley, but like listening to Lane Kiffin for the last 2 weeks and asking him about Keywan Lacey and hearing him say, it's great to have a guy who not only when he breaks through, he doesn't get caught. He's not so subtly talking about the Ulysses Bentley situation. Think whatever you want to. Ulysses was the best of a bad group of running backs for Ole Miss last year, and he should have been playing. But having acknowledged that, and I think Lane Kiffin would even acknowledge that now, like there were some personnel decisions that just didn't make any sense and cost them a college football playoff appearance. This year, they have a well-stocked backfield led by a potential superstar all-SEC caliber player in Keywan Lacey. You don't have to ride with the hero ball or like it was some frustrating stuff too. For example, one of the interceptions, Austin fumble, like bad snap from Bryson Sanders. It's a fumble at the snap. He gathers himself, collects it, and still throws an absolutely atrocious ball.
For no reason. And for me, the big thing with him, man, has been, we talked about last week, not recognizing the safety up top. But this week, I don't even think it was that issue. It was just you have 2 Kentucky jerseys. I mean, literally right there. And I almost feel like he thinks he's going to make that throw.
Which you don't want to take that aggressiveness away from him.
No
but
doubt.
Also, if this team with an improving offensive line, a running back who, man, he needs the ball 25 to 30 times a game.
Yeah.
why are we even taking those risks? So if it does get to that point where the turnovers are less a product of a young quarterback learning and more of a real systemic issue for him right now, then yeah, that's where I can see Trinidad Chambliss coming more into play. And if
How
he does,
confident are you that Austin's going to play? I mean, I know he
oh,
was
I think he's
walking
going to
around
play.
fine, but you could always say, well, they probably, he was shot up with painkillers or Toradol or something. Like, do you think he's fine? Like, you think he's playing Saturday?
I don't think he's fine. He's got an ankle sprain. It's not a high ankle sprain, but I
Yeah.
think he's playing on Saturday.
Okay.
It is something you got to monitor all week. I mean, ankle sprains can be tricky, but he came back into the game after suffering the ankle sprain and actually ran the ball really, really well. I think they only passed it one time in the fourth quarter because they were running the ball so efficiently, and that defense is good enough. I mean, yes, they don't have the same top end star names that you're used or that you got used to last year with Walter Nolan and Princely Monmiel, Jared Ivey, J.J. Pegues, Trey Amos. Trey Amos had a great day against the Giants, starting for the Washington Commanders.
Stop it.
Shutting down Malik Neighbors in a lot of ways. I mean, these guys are dudes, legitimate dudes that they lost. But across the board, man, I love what Pete Golding has put together, the collection of talent and the depth of the options that he has. Jaden Yates has been great. Taj Chambers is pushing him. TJ Dottery started slow against Kentucky, but really came on. He's going to be Ole Miss's leading tackler, just as he was Ole Miss's second leading tackler last year. The secondary is getting healthier. Antonio Kite Pete Golding's superpower is finding cast-offs and like from other SEC schools usually, and turning them into absolute dudes. Trey Amos came from Alabama after being their nickel corner. He was great at ULL the year before, but he's doing the step up of the transfer portal to Alabama, becomes their nickel corner, only has 12 tackles, becomes an All-American and second-round pick last year. Antonio Kite is competing in a similar fashion. I don't think he's the talent of Trey Amos, but man, has he been a really dominant shutdown cornerback for Ole Miss so far.
Should have had an interception on Saturday too.
Yeah, and they're figuring it out opposite him as well. Ricky Fletcher from South Alabama has done a really good job. Actually got into the game after spending the week on the questionable tag. Got in, played, didn't start. Chris Graves did. He held up pretty well. Jalen Braxton will come back eventually. You've got the defense, it looks like. Another top 20 like defense, which we said, both you and I said this. That was the big question. If you're that, again, it's a college football playoff team, and all becomes about Austin Simmons. And I think through 2 weeks, that's exactly what it is. Defense is good enough. Offensive line still got to figure some things out. But, man, encouraging signs, especially when Delano Townsend got in there. There was an obvious improvement. Everybody looked better. The playmakers on offense are insane. Like you put up 30 at Kentucky, the first SEC start, let alone road SEC start for Austin Simmons, and you put up without your Daquan Wright, with the full complement of Daquan Wright, without Luke Haas, without Caleb Odom, who was running open a couple of times.
A lot of issues like that, and you still won that way.
And you still won because
you struggled a little bit at quarter. Your offensive line is going to be a concern all season.
Yes, it was Austin. What was the question mark? Or what's the takeaway from Kentucky? Everything else seemed kind of there.
Yeah.
But Austin's got these turnover issues. So that's where I do expect him to play this week.